My name is Rahin Intesar, and I'm from Dhaka. Originally, my hometown is in Chatpur, but I've been living in Dhaka for the past 2 decades almost. So Dhaka is kind of my hometown now. My study plan was actually that after graduation, after my undergrads at the Islamic University of Technology, I was hoping that I'd actually go to Europe. Western Europe, preferably, to undertake my higher studies or postgrad studies. And I started applying to a lot of universities in Ireland, Belgium, the UK, and all that. And I did get a lot of good responses from those universities, but the tuition fees were pretty high, especially in the UK and in Ireland. And since my dad got laid off, it put a lot of financial stress on our family. And for that reason, I kind of didn't give up hope of higher studies, but I kind of understood that paying these exorbitant tuition fees in Western Europe would not be possible for me. So I started looking for pathways into other countries or any sort of ways how I could manage these funds. And one of the ways was that Italy has a really good subsidized public education system, even for higher studies. And the tuition fees in their universities is actually wholly based on your family's financial income. So that's why I started digging into Italy, and I have set in motion so that I could join Italy this coming September to start my postgrad studies at the University of Federico, Naples II, which is one of the oldest institutions in Europe. It's almost 806 years old, so it's one of the oldest institutions in Italy at the very least. Well, ইচ্ছাটা always ছোটবেলা থেকে because in my family, there are a lot of high achievers in my mother's side and my paternal side. One of them completed their PhDs at Purdue University, and another one completed his chartered accountant from the UK and then came back to Bangladesh and is a senior employee at Robi now. Just looking at them, I always thought, yeah, I want to go abroad as well for higher education. And ছোটবেলায় it was not like যে আমি এটা পড়তে চাই or এটা করতে চাই, but it was kind of, this what I wanted to have the bragging right as well, যে like আমিও ভালো একটা quality education and I will also pursue my dreams in life as well. That was the initial feeling inside me as a kid, because seeing these cousins of mine achieving their dreams uplifted me to pursue the same dreams as them. So that was why I am pursuing higher studies in a foreign land. And when did I actually start taking steps towards this? Well, first of all, the first step was completing my undergraduate studies in engineering with a good enough CGPA. That was the first step. And যখন আমি ইউনিভার্সিটিতে ঢুকছিলাম আইউটিতে, I told myself that I would come out of here with at least a 3.5 CGPA out of 4, and I got exactly 3.5, nothing below that or higher than that. And after graduating, I just didn't really know what to do, where to start. So the first thing that people do is IELTS or some sort of English proficiency test দেওয়ার জন্য ready হয়. I got into an internship right after graduating, so I really didn't have time for preparing myself. আমি just একটা টেস্ট বুক করে ফেলছিলাম ব্রিটিশ কাউন্সিলের সাথে। খুবই তাড়াতাড়ি পরীক্ষা দিয়ে দিতে 2 weeks later than I had appointed the test date on. I was totally unprepared, but mashallah, আমি খুবই ভালো একটা স্কোর আরকি অ্যাচিভ করছি IELTS এ। And after that, I just started applying to universities in Europe. I started first exploring where আমার যে সাবজেক্ট আছে supply chain management or logistics management, কোন country there are a lot of shipping venues or logistics or movement of goods all throughout. And that's why I chose the Mediterranean belt or countries where there are a lot of big hubs, shipping hubs. And that's why I chose Belgium, the Ireland, UK, and Italy as well, because they're really close to the Mediterranean Sea. And also Belgium has the second largest port in Europe after the Netherlands in Rotterdam. At least that's what I remember. I also did apply to the Netherlands. Um, so yeah, আমার বেসিক্যালি আমার অ্যাকশন প্ল্যানটা ছিল আমি যে সাবজেক্ট পড়তে চাই ওই সাবজেক্টের in real industrial application কোন কান্ট্রিজে আছে ওইগুলো আমি রিসার্চ করছি, then I started applying there. But when the realization hit me যে like I couldn't afford studying in those countries যেগুলো আমি চুজ করছিলাম initially, that's when I started looking at alternatives. Then that's when I came across Italy and Italy's education policies and all that. That's been my journey so far and how I decided upon choosing Italy. My undergrad major was in industrial and production engineering. And in my major, I studied a lot of subjects like operation research and linear programming. And the main point of those subjects or courses were how can we improve something that's already existing, or how can we create a totally new system, but from the very beginning, make it reach the maximum possible objective function. How can we maximize or minimize the objective function? So this is totally a mathematical based subject. And the thing is that if you want to actually maximize or minimize something, you need to first understand the ground realities, where the data points are coming from and where the variables are actually hitting in real life circumstances. And I am also frustrated by my country's public transportation and the whole logistics industry as a whole in Bangladesh. Since আমার ইউনিভার্সিটি ছিল আইওটি, এটা গাজীপুরে, বোর্ড বাজারে, অ্যান্ড আমার বাসা হলো আমার যাত্রাবাড়ি। সো আমার যাত্রাবাড়ি থেকে গাজীপুর যাইতে হইতো। And maybe you know the condition of the roads just in between these two places that are only 30 kilometers apart. It's in the same city, in the same municipality, but the road conditions are pathetic, basically. And my desire was that if I'm going through this right now, I'm pretty sure 20 years later, someone like me is going to go through the same problem again and again and again in this country. And I just couldn't bear to see Bangladesh still hasn't been able to solve its public transportation or roads and development programs. And that's why I chose transportation engineering and mobility as my postgraduate major in Italy. And hopefully, when I do gain enough experience, enough knowledge on this subject, I can come back and actually have some impact in my own country. So coming back to the subject of preference, I am kind of abhorred by the road conditions in Bangladesh, and we move a lot of products from our factories in Gazipur to our shipping ports in Komlapur or Chittagong. And yet those trucks and those public transportations, and all of them have to go through these narrow corridors and all that. And we haven't been able to improve, that condition too much, honestly, in the past 2 decades. And I also have an interest in supply chain management. So the subject that I chose, transportation engineering and mobility, is the combination of both these subjects. So not only will I be able to learn road transportation engineering, but also learn how to actually the management of moving stuff from one place to the other. It's a good combination of both things that I'm trying to achieve. That's why I chose this very specific subject. I know a lot of people study more popular subjects, whether it's mechanical engineering, computer science, or the new rave, which is AI and machine learning. But I wanted to study a subject which uses modern technology, modern innovation to solve something that's very real. So rather than studying a very popular subject, or I wanted to narrow down my scope, and which is why I chose transportation engineering and mobility. And coming to the second question, why Italy? Well, first of all, the financial reason. The second reason is Italy has some of the oldest institutions in Europe. Not just my university or the university that I got chosen into. My university, Federico, Naples, was established in 1224. The University of Padua was established in 1222. There are more universities other than just this. Politecnico di Milan as well. These are really old institutions. I'm not just attracted to them because they're old or revered as higher places of studies in Europe, but because they're respected. Also, the research output of the department that I am going to, specifically the civil engineering department, in terms of research output, it's actually ranked the 62nd in the whole world. So that's one of the major reasons why I chose this university over other universities in Italy as well, because the respective department's rank is very high. It's close to the top 50 institutions in the world for this subject. 5 years from now, I'm hoping that after I successfully defend my master thesis in Italy, hopefully I will actually go on to get a PhD either in Italy or in Europe again. And the reason for getting a PhD is not so that I can stay আমি যাতে আমি সারা জীবন পড়ালেখা করি এমন না, but so that actually the things that I study, I can actually put them on pen and paper and then actually apply them in real industries. I want to spend as much time as possible studying and reflecting on what I have studied. And then hopefully I will enter the industry as someone who's a very learned person and can be a voice for change in any room that I'm in, whether that's in any private conglomerate or in a government position or starting something of my own, whatever it is. I hope to be someone whose voice carries some weight. I kind of couldn't believe it, actually. I was kind of in disbelief, like the silent sort of disbelief that, oh, I can't believe this is actually happening to me. This opportunity will actually help me not face some of the pressure and just focus on what is actually ahead, which is getting to Italy or landing on Italy and then just kickstarting my next educational aspiration or career right off the bat. First of all, I think there has to be some desire. You need to have that desire to actually better yourself and improve on yourself. And if you don't have that desire and you're just going with the flow, I feel like you will certainly face some sort of hurdle in your study abroad pathway. I think before going through this whole process, you should understand what you want for yourself. And yes, of course, তোমার desire or তোমার dreams, it will obviously change with পারে। 1 week from now, you might be thinking আমি Ireland যাবো, but then 1 month later, you might be reassessing your plans to another country or to another subject. But having a vague objective or a vague goal is the first necessary step. Because if you just follow others' directions or what other people tell is good for you, then I think certainly you will fail at one point. Because listening to others means that you're solely relying on other people's ambitions or other people's dreams, not your own dreams. So that's one of the advices that I have. And the second advice is doors open and keep closing and keep opening for you. So if one door closes, then surely another door will open for you. For example, there are a lot of things happening in our lives, around our lives that are not solely in our control. Those variables you cannot control, but there are some variables that you can control. So just keep focusing on them, on those, and hopefully the universe will open a suitable path for you. I think I started applying or officially getting into this whole rhythm of applying abroad for higher studies pretty late. Some people might consider that I started pretty early or in a good time, but I think if you do want to go abroad for higher studies, you should be thinking of this even before you finish your undergraduate. Or if you're willing to go for undergraduate studies, you should be thinking about this while you're already in your higher secondary studies. Because that huge time that you have until you graduate, whether it's 6 months before, 1 year ago, or 2 and 3 years before you graduate, that huge time will allow you to actually experiment with stuff, and make mistakes and learn from them. And it's always better to learn from mistakes than to make mistakes and then pay for it later on. So if I advise myself, I'd actually tell start exploring even earlier than when I actually did start exploring. So whether that's trying to figure out a list of good countries for myself or the subject that I did want to study or the universities that I wanted to go to, or whether it's the financial condition. Maybe if I had planned this, like let's say 4 years ago, when my family's financial condition was better, I probably could have completed my undergraduate studies in someplace else. And I already could have been on the pathway to my dreams even earlier. But during that time, during my undergrad COVID era, I was actually pretty scared of taking that leap. I saw a lot of my friends from Notre Dame College who during that time were already going to the USA, Canada, Australia for their undergrad studies. And I was actually scared to take that step because during that time I was thinking that it's আমাকে দ্বারা এখন হবে না or I don't have any profile yet which would be good for higher studies in another country. Basically 6 years ago I had a lot of self-doubt. I don't have that now, but I would advise my 6 year younger me to not have that self-doubt. When I was applying for the scholarship, I did get a chance to explore your platform and to see what you offer. And I think that It's a very good service for students like me or even people who are younger than me who still have that self-doubt or confusion of where to start or how to start. I think a platform like Lattu AI is a good starting point to start making some plans